gorgeous day, and I appreciate you being here. I promise that we will not be long. I will only take about a half an hour to 45 minutes of your time. That's the intent, I hope. Third is then some just basic things. If you want to ask a question, don't hesitate at any point in time to jump in. It's okay. You can just shout out, "Excuse me, Mr. Wells," and ask away. It's not a problem. Or if you prefer not to, and you prefer to chat it out, then go ahead and type in and chat your question. That's perfectly fine as well. It is not an issue. Last but not least, of course, is this recording. As soon as it is done, I'll post out again for everyone so that you can review it if you do need to. So let's start with our agenda this evening. Let me get that up and ready for you. Okay, so this evening we are going to go over some basic information pertaining to what's going to happen to you over the next few weeks into months in preparation for the residency. I have greatly appreciated everyone's time, patience, communication as we've gone through some various iterations of contracts through our legal department. As you can imagine, that's a very important document that needs to be reviewed and rechecked all the time. And in terms of other information within district contacts, district start dates, and so forth, some minor issues, minor changes, pardon me, have come up that we would like to express and share with you so that you are aware of that as well. So tonight's agenda is very, very simple, but very, very needy. Very needed, pardon me. So in terms of the beginning with administrative items, we'll talk about your clearance items that are required, your Praxis 2 examination, your W-4 form. We'll take a peek and talk briefly about the WILMU year-long residency vision of teaching and the gradual release document. The gradual release document was sent to you, of course, via email, but I'd like to go over it briefly so you can begin to see where it is that you should be at between the time frame of now to August. In terms of timeline, schedules, and meetings, going through everything there that's listed so that we are prepared, obviously, for our first face-to-face meeting. And then, of course, a review of the contract so you see that ahead of time before I send it out to you, because it will be due at our next face-to-face meeting. So I want to go over those pieces and parts so that you're fully aware of what that contract means. So let's start with your clearance items. And again, please do not hesitate to interrupt, ask questions, and ask. I have not a problem. It's not an issue or a bother. This document you've seen before. This is our clearance, clinical client clearance document revolving around those items that are needed during your year-long residency. Now, as stated earlier, but it was such a long time ago, let me remind you of the following. Your current criminal background check, your child protection registry, your PPD, TB tests, all stay firm during practicum 1, 2, and 3. So essentially, the first few months that you are engaged in your year-long residency experience, the months of August, September, October, so forth, those items still stay firm. However, via Delaware state law, you must renew these items, including your health certification form, when we move into that time frame of December. So just before the holiday, essentially, you're going to be resubmitting a renewed criminal background check, child protection registry, the PPD TB test, and the health certification form. Now, these documents and this document that you're looking at, I'll email out to everybody again this evening after we're done so that you have it in your hands and you can review it. But you should know, obviously, what the first three things are. The fourth, which is the health certification, that's basically health screening via your family practitioner or provider to ensure that you are, quote unquote, healthy enough to engage in student teaching. Now, this is a state mandated requirement as well, as well as all the renewed documents, because it's state law, so we have to do it. Now, within that last item, which is your Praxis 2 exam, the conversation revolves around ensuring that you have passed your Praxis 2 in a timely manner for, of course, the year-long residency. So what does that mean? It means that you have passed your appropriate Praxis 2 content-specific examination before the start of the residency. So no later than September, we should be receiving your passing scores for Praxis 2. Now, I want to clarify, obviously, that we're looking at Delaware scores, and that we are looking, again, at the content-specific examination in which you are being placed. So as an example, I'm on the ETS website right now. Now, you'll know, obviously, that we don't need Praxis 1 anymore because State of Delaware changed its rules. However, for their certification area, which is right here, you're going to select that examination for your content area. So let's say, for example, I'm a middle level education major, and I'm a middle level mathematics major. Then my Praxis 2 exam would be middle school mathematics, test code 5169, with, of course, Delaware's passing score. Now, this is going to apply to everyone, obviously, in your own content area. But I'd like to bring the attention that it is not the special education exam. Yes, some of you, not all, some of you will also take the special education Praxis 2 because you are seeking dual certification or the secondary license in the state of Delaware for special education. That is not what we're looking for right away, yet that you will know needed if you plan to seek that secondary license. We're specifically focusing in by September on the required Praxis 2 content specific. So if you're early childhood, of course, it's birth to second. If you're elementary, that's K to 6, middle level, secondary, and so forth. Okay. That's all due, then, of course, that Praxis 2 exam by September. Now, what does that mean? That means if you do not pass it, we can't move forward within the residency. It is an essential element. So, what I want you to do is either do one of two things. You're either going to email me after our session this evening and say, Mr. Wells, I've taken and I've passed, and that way I have it on record. Or B, you are planning to take in the next few weeks to months, and I'd like for you to tell me when it is that you are planning to take that. That way I then have an active record of where everyone is at. Now, went over just 3 basic things. Does anybody have any questions so far about either your clearance items that you will need to eventually renew come December, your Praxis 2, which would be due in September, and of course the W-4 form, which I guess I didn't go over, sorry about that, this document, which you will fill out and bring with you at our next meeting. Now, of course, we ask you to fill out a W-4 form because of your compensation package that you're receiving for this year's residency. And it's obviously all taxable income, which we will talk about. So, of course, this W-4 form is extremely important. And our conversation as to planning ahead for your taxable income, you're going to want to pay close attention to how that works for you. So those 3 things so far. Does anybody have any questions?
Tyler, it's Alyssa.
Hi, Alyssa.
I was wondering if I went and got my physical and background check done this month, would it still hold for the remainder of next school year?
Yes, it would.
Okay, great.
Additional questions, please.
Tyler,
Okay. Yes.
Jennifer. So I renewed. Can you mute yourself? Okay. So I renewed all of my stuff earlier this year in about
Mhm.
February and submitted it. Do I still have to renew again in December, or will that hold for this coming school year? The girl that just asked the question asked if it was good for the rest of this school year, but I'm talking about for the 2018-2019 school year. Will my February stuff
That's
hold?
that's a very good question. Jenna, I need you to email me because I'm going to ask Mrs. Potter to pull your records, and I need to see the date that it was received on versus also obviously the date that it was the criminal background check was run, and
Okay.
then that way I can verify it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional questions regarding clearance, Praxis 2, or W4? Margaret, very good question. Margaret says, you said we'll go over the taxable income with relation to the W4. Are we going to go over that tonight or later on? Yes, we'll go over it a little bit tonight. Identifying that it is taxable income, right? And we're going to have a point of conversation during our live meeting as to when the disbursements will come and how that will work. Because I do want to be fair and equitable to everyone, but at the same time, I want to make sure that we have an honest conversation about taxable income so that when you're claiming, right, because right tax time just rolled around here, you're going to want to be able to do that accordingly. So that's a great question, Margaret. So we'll do a bit this evening, and then we'll have continuing conversations as we go on. So I'll be the good teacher, and I'll wait a few more moments. That's the pause there for any other questions within these three items. Okay. Great question, Casey. Let me bring up the clinical compliance manual. So the manual goes through each item. You may use our form, which is part of the document itself, such as we have right here, and or your family practitioner may have a standard form that he or she has used in the past, and or whatever form they may use, and that's sufficient as well. But in case they don't, you may certainly use this. That's part of the document that I'll be sending out. That's a great question. All right, and of course you can always come back to other questions if you have any. It's not like we're just going to roll on without you. All right, let me move on to the next item. And if you do have questions about the other items, we can come back and revisit. So this document, and no, I'm not going to read this to you, okay? It's 5 pages long. I'm not going to read it to you. But I want to bring it to your attention that we do have in writing what it is that we see as a vision of effective teaching within the College of Education for the year-long residency. Of course, just like any good practice, it's based in theory, such as your own philosophies of education are based on a learning theory or a foundation, and ours is as well. And I'd like for you to review and read this document so that you are aware of who we are. Not that you don't know that already, but here you'll have a better understanding and the depth and breadth of the College of Education at Wilmington University, as we have formed key essential relationships with the districts in which you'll be assigned to and which you have been assigned to and which you'll be conducting the residency. It is, if you will, based upon very specific areas, which we call a conceptual framework. Again, I'm not reading it all to you tonight, but these or I should say this idea or this concept of learning is based on a variety of theories. And as such, it's important for you, whether it's Danielson or Marzano or Gardner's intelligences, those things, this is where we all come from. More importantly, gives you a better understanding of where you're going to go through, I should say, what you're going to go through within the year-long residency. Now, of course, your mentor teachers have obtained this copy. They are aware of this as well. And no, there'll be no test. Okay, there'll be no late evening questionnaire. This is more for you as a learner, you as a teacher, so that you are more connected to what this program means. So I'll be sending that out to you as well. It's something that we clearly state within the College of Education as to what we believe in is effective teaching. Now, the other document that I have shared with you is the gradual release of responsibilities. And it is one that I would like to spend some time on between where we are today, April, versus where we should be seeing activity and engagement into June and August. So hopefully you've taken a look at this. And so again, I'm not going to read it to you, but looking at this document, you can see obviously that there are two major categories, right? What the mentor teacher is going to be doing and what you, the candidate, will be doing. And obviously we've broken this down into months, or those areas of months. And it's essential that you look at this now, April, May, into June, because obviously there are specific things that you are going to be needing to do, accomplish, and begin to learn about in preparation for the students, the K-12 students, to entering into the building. So as an example, you're going to want to obviously participate in all of our scheduled meetings that we have. Some of you have indicated already that you cannot, and I understand that. And it's understandable. Families, vacations, children, it's totally understandable. However, as we begin, you'll see from our May meeting that we will then set the stage and those dates very clearly. So from when we meet at our next face-to-face meeting in May, I'll have all the dates, all the times, all of our meetings already set for the entire academic year. So that'll be from August all the way to next May, June, in which we will be meeting so that you have those on your calendar in advance. You obviously, during this time frame, want to be learning about the school, your mentor teacher, the district, right? Those areas that are connected to the school that you're going to be working in. So again, not going to be reviewing and reading this over with you, but you can see that there is a good amount of information that begins its steps in the residency. And as you move toward into September, obviously the idea here, very clearly and explicitly stated, is the idea that your mentor teacher will begin the process of not just teaching you, but going through a cycle of learning. And it is very much, if you will, a rotational, if you can think of a circle, just a rotational cycle. It's communicating and understanding, whether it be children, the understanding the knowledge of the children, whether understanding the assessments that are going to occur, whether it's understanding the goals or the objectives, then getting into the planning component with your mentor teacher, and going through just those two parts of the cycle takes some time, because he or she wants you to be very closely aligned with the practice that's going on in the classroom. And of course, as the cycle continues from just understanding to planning and moving into engagement or enacting or teaching, and then of course into analysis and reflection, the cycle will repeat itself over and over, where you then, once you get into that mode and learning and engagement, then you get to do more and you'll be engaged more. So Bridget asks a question. Can you elaborate on registering for year-long classes and when we'll be going that at a later date? Yes, we will actually at our live session on May, I believe the 14th, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. We will actually be registering for your fall classes. Registration for fall classes begin, if I'm not mistaken, in about a week. Let's see, next Monday, if I'm not mistaken. And so our timeline will be very well aligned. We can register together. We'll have that all ready to go, quote unquote, via the registrar's office. But Bridget will talk about that in a few minutes, and then we'll talk about when and how. So at your leisure over the next few days, weeks, you should be going over this document, especially as it relates to what the mentor teacher is doing for you and with you in preparation for you to be teaching more lessons, taking more control, and then also engaging in those conversations about co-teaching and the co-teaching environment. Now, I say that because during our next meetings, one on the 14th and then the one after in June, where all the mentor teachers and all of you get together, we will be going through some initial professional development conversations and engaged activities around co-teaching model and the co-teaching opportunities that will be created for you in the classroom, how that works and how that will be established. And in addition, there are a variety of other categories that you will see occur and be created. One is co-teaching. One is what we call purposeful conversations. The time to chat with your mentor teacher during the day, whether it be a PLCs, during planning period, before or after school, so that you can begin to have that immediate, effective feedback loop to your performance in the classroom. This document details all of those things, and again, goes through the months of, October, November, December, and so forth. So hoping that you've at least looked at this basically. If you can, though, go into it in more detail over the next few days and 2 weeks in preparation for our May 14th meeting. So whether it be the vision of effective teaching or this document, the gradual release, does anybody have any questions about these two particular documents?
I have a quick question about the end of the school year, this school year.
Certainly. I'm sorry, can you introduce yourself, please?
I am Katrina.
Hi, Katrina. Good evening.
I don't think my messages are going through.
Go ahead.
I had talked to my mentor teacher for Practicum 2, and I'm doing my year long with the same school. So she had mentioned that at the end of the school year, they do a PLC for a couple of days after the kids leave. Should we be involved with them then, or should we just wait until about August to talk to them, or in June when we meet them face to face?
I think you want to begin engaging in conversation now. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I would say
all year long now. Her and I have been talking already, but I didn't know if we should be involved with the end of the year process where they talk about the upcoming year.
No, I think that's a great idea. I think that sets the tone on a number of levels. First, Katrina, I think, one, it sets the tone for that team and that school, and of course your mentor teacher, that says Katrina is very serious and willing to engage earlier than needed to be. Two, you are going to have a wide base, a wider base of understanding of the process of where they ended the school year. That PLC meetings, as you all know, in terms of professional learning communities, are there not as right now as a gripe session, but more so a planning and process session for next year's curriculum. I think that would be great in terms of a category to fit into and to understand as to, how do they match up and where do they go, and also, if you will, the last part, it's a closing of the loop meeting. And what does that mean? That means it's a feedback session for themselves. It's one of these. We've taught these children now at this entire academic year. We've taught all these lessons. We've identified all these goals. We've set these standards. Now we've taught everything. And it's that's essential question that you ask yourselves now. How could we have done this better? What were some of the gaps? What do we need to do differently? In what direction could we go? And it's analyzing and looking at data. It's analyzing and looking at the performance of the children. And most importantly, these teachers will begin to think about what they did in the classroom, the self-reflection. And that end of the year PLC, if you can engage in that, that's going to be I think the strongest part of that conversation.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely do that then. Thank you.
Very good. I have a question from Caitlin. Can we get our Wilmington University ID at the Georgetown campus or only upstate? Caitlin, that is an extremely good question. Yes, you can get your WilmU ID at the Georgetown campus. Here's who you contact. You contact Carla Phillips, Mrs. Carla Phillips. She's one of the secretaries at the head desk. Give her an email, and they can take care of that for you there. Katrina, good question. Caitlin, thank you. Are there any other questions revolving around our two documents? And of course, any others? Okay, Casey, that's a very good question. How do we go about obtaining a district ID? Okay, so every district is different, from Indian River to Red Clay. Now, each of your supervisors, your assigned supervisors from the districts and for the residency, will assist you in the process of obtaining your ID. Your mentor teacher will also be that individual who will work with you and assist you in that capacity. Now, of course, you all probably have seen that I will be meeting with your mentor teachers 1 week from tonight on the 29th, and we go through our process in terms of mentor teachers. And one of them is, as I remind them, to reach out to their candidates and begin that process of helping them through getting, like, so for example, getting email, getting ID, and so forth. So that's a very good question, Casey. However, as a cautionary note, we want to do that earlier than later. So it is primarily probably a very good idea to get this done before the children arrive, right? So it's going to happen sometime in August. In fact, it's probably best to do that prior to the teachers having to go back to the school. However, it's based upon districts. So every district's different. So I can't give you a specific date, and I can't give you a specific contact person, because that's what the mentor teacher and your supervisor will help you with. These are very good questions. Are there any others before I move on? So I guess that's a good segue into timeline schedules and meetings in terms of mentor-teacher communication. Now, the only groups that are still waiting for direct assignment, which were our candidates at Shortledge Elementary, which I will say that we have met and interviewed all of the mentor teachers for Shortledge, and we have selected what we feel in coordination with the district as the best teachers possible, and we'll be communicating to our 3 candidates at Shortledge this week as to next steps. In addition, our candidates who are in Red Clay at the AI Middle and AI DuPont, we've met those teachers, gone through the interview, discussion, dialogue process, and we'll be communicating to you as well as to next steps. Everyone else should know their mentor teacher to whom they are assigned, and you should be communicating, at least at a minimum, providing your cell, text, right, email, and if you can, over the next few weeks to months, making appointments to come to visit the school and also the classroom environment. It's a good idea to see it at this part of the year, because It's where they're closing up shop, if you will. You're also getting a feel for the population that's being served and so forth. Now, this is an important component for you in terms of your planning and preparation come August, which is the district first day teacher start date. And that's a mouthful, okay? Because on the district calendar, we have teacher start dates and then we have student start dates. So you're going to want to check your respective district's teacher start date, because that's when you will officially begin, and you will officially begin and partake and participate in the various professional development and meetings that are occurring prior to the children attending, which is typically 1 week after the first teacher date. Now, there are some districts that offer and provide, which the majority are all now, Capital and Indian River and Red Clay and Apo and Colonial, are also providing some opportunities for additional professional development prior to the teacher's first start date. It is advisable that you take advantage of those. They may seem basic in nature, but it is advisable because it gets you out already within the district, your face, your name, so forth. However, that's part of your mentor teacher's responsibility as your guide and your mentor to begin to communicate these dates to you early on. So again, next Sunday and next week when I'm talking to the mentor teachers, that's going to be our other process into early communication as to those additional meetings, if available. Any questions so far on mentor-teacher communication, school visits, or your start date via the district's calendar for fall 18?
Tyler, this is Leah. I know in Georgetown they are testing this week, the middle school. I don't know about the high school, but they just need to check to make sure that their mentor teacher is not testing.
Yep. Again, good evening, Dr. Van Gelder. Yes, you are absolutely correct. Yeah, we wouldn't want to do a surprise visit. This would be, either email your mentor teacher, or if you have their cell phone or you have their contact information, communicate to them in such a manner saying, I'd like to make an appointment to come in, or I'd like to be able to come into the school. What's good for you? Obviously all of them want you to come in and they want you to see what's going on, so they're going to give you honest feedback. If it's testing, they're going to tell you right, well, this week's testing, don't come in because it's not going to really be what you should see, because they're really not going to be engaging in much instruction, if anything at all. Thank you, Dr. Van Gelder. Good point. Additional questions? Okay. All right, so before we move on to our contract, and then we are done, which is our next two meetings. So May the 14th in Dover, all of us are together. So that meeting will consist of the following. First, that's where you'll bring to me your signed W-4 form. So I'll be emailing the W-4 form out to you. You're going to bring has to be a live signature on a live document. In addition to that, you'll be bringing your contract. I'll be sending that out to you in enough manner between now and the 14th so that you can review it, read it, understand what it says, and we'll, of course, go over it. You'll also then be registering for courses for the fall semester. We'll do that together. We'll all provide laptops for you so that you have that. And in addition then, we will go over and then provide documents and information pertaining to your requirements, if you will, through TaskStream, through the process of residency, meaning the data and the evaluation that we will be collecting of you for Wilmington University. In addition to, we'll be setting the stage for the evidence and the information that the National Center for Teacher Residencies will be collecting on you. Now, I say that because you all need to be aware, in the contract you'll see it, that you'll all be participating within a research project through the American Institute for Research, or AIR. And don't worry, you don't have to write any of this down. I'll be emailing out so you have a link and you can go to their webpage. Now, AIR is probably one of the most nationally recognized institutes for research. They have thousands of publications, peer reviewed. These are collegiate, obviously, individuals as an entity. They, AIR, along with NCTR, the National Center for Teacher Residencies, will be collecting evidence and data on you. Now, that's in the form of surveys and things like that. And of course, we're going to go through that step by step. We'll talk about when those surveys come out. This is very tangible evidence, though, because it speaks to what this program is, who you are as candidates, and then more importantly, we're going to talk about how we're going to follow you after you graduate into hire and into employment, and what that means for our program as well. Last but not least, we'll talk about your taxable income, as Margaret had asked, and we'll talk about the disbursement of funds, that funding component. And also, lastly, on the 14th, we'll talk about your 50% reduction of tuition and how that works regarding registration. We have, of course, a few odds and ends that are aligned to moving forward to the June meeting, June 25th, where you have all the mentor teachers and candidates together, because that will be obviously an all-day meeting where we'll be deep diving into curriculum, deep diving into application, preparation, who your mentor teacher are as guides and mentors and coaches versus who you are as a learner and moving into being a teacher and teaching. So does anybody have any questions about these two dates that we have posted? Or any questions at all about any of the information that I've shared with you so far? So, Stephanie, are we able to receive financial aid along with the 50%? Yes. Yes, you may. The nice thing about the 50% reduction for all, that it applies to every course that you take during the fall 18, spring 19 semester. Julia, if I get a TB test next month, yes, that's okay, Julia, not a problem. You're not asking double questions. I'd rather you all ask me these questions, and I typically preface these meetings with the following, with this group. You have to understand, everyone, that you are now moving into a different realm of practice and as individuals. You are no longer going to be looked at as a student teacher or a student. Remember, come August, you're the teacher in the classroom, the teacher, the co-teacher, and you're going to be treated as such. So now is the time. Now's the time to, don't be shy. You are teachers now. We're going to move into this together. Don't hesitate to ask. And I'll preface at our next meeting to give you a reminder. Don't be shy here. Casey, that is an extremely good question. Email me, please, Casey. I'll need to send that along to the financial aid office individually to my contact so I can get you a response quickly.
Tyler, it's Katrina again. I have a quick question about just emails with you and I. I got this last email saying that we were going to have this meeting, but the previous email you had sent out and you attached it to this email, I wasn't getting that. I didn't get that email. And I know you and I have had some email mishaps in the past, and I just wanted to know how to make sure I'm not missing anything. I guess.
Yes, yeah, Katrina, you make a good point, and I've ever since we've gone into the new system, when we changed over from Web Campus to MyWilmU, you're right. I've had a few lovely instances as well where some student emails have gone to spam or they've gone to junk or whatever it's called. Yes. So what we do is, and that's probably why you received now the secondary email, Katrina, is I create what's called a group. You are all now in my email called the year-long residency group, essentially. And that way, I know that all of the emails are going to you because I then track them. So the only other thing you can do, of course, is stay together as a team. I know, all of you are in cohorts now, and please, you should know who your cohort is. And if you don't, I'm going to send that email out again saying here's the team who's placed at this school. You want to exchange numbers internally. You are going to become very close. You are almost, i.e., family, and you're going to want to work together. So if by chance you are not receiving communication from me, but your cohort peer is, you need to raise the red flag and let me know. I mean, that just happened to me just 2 days ago with a student in one of my other courses who wasn't getting any of my emails. They were going right to her trash or inbox. I mean the spam. So yes, please. Thank you, Katrina, for bringing that up.
It's Katrina again. So did we get an email about who else was in the school with us already, or is that something that's going to be coming out?
Yes, that will come out to the team.
Okay.
Individually. Emma, I have a question. If we still have a course to complete to satisfy graduation requirements, is it okay that the course is in the fall? Yes, Emma, yes, you may do so. Between May and June, my team, whom most of you know, will be reviewing your academic records and transcripts to ensure which courses that you need to take, that you will be taking, and will need to take. Let's put it that way. So those you may be taking courses over the summer into the fall and spring. So if it does happen to have a course that does need to be taken, yes, you can take it during the residency. And again, it will fall within that 50% reduction of tuition. Okay, these are very good questions. So before we go in and jump into the contract, are there any other questions at all? Okay. All right, so trying to keep here at 7:45. Let's get through this and I can let you all go for the evening. So this will be the contract that you will be receiving. I will be sending this out email and also as a live document to your household. Now, it will need to be, obviously, signed. It'll be a live document that, of course, then we'll keep on file and scan as well. Now, I'm going to say this clearly to all of you, that there's some language in here that may seem a little strange or awkward or even scary. Don't be scared. It's legalese. But I also, though, just don't want to skim over it. I want to go through each part of the document so that you're aware of what it is and what it means. So let's start with the basic information in terms of definition. Obviously, what residency year entails, meaning somewhere roughly estimated between June to June. Probably for most of you all, it won't be anywhere near June. It'll be right August, but it's just a time frame because we're going to meet together as a team in June as well. That our year-long residency year will begin and roughly end. Everybody's going to be a little bit different on the end date because each district is different. Now, the program partners are, of course, Wilmington University and the districts in which you are assigned. The residency graduate is you. The mentor teacher, obviously, is whom you are assigned with, and our definition of a high-need school. That's just basic definitions. Now, regarding what we would call general or minimal commitments and our program are as follows. We will provide to you a handbook at the May 14th meeting. That handbook I'll also email out to you after our meeting this evening, so that you have it to review it, to look over it. That handbook, in addition to the gradual release, in addition to the other requirements that will be listed in task stream that we will go over, are all part of a program requirement for this event, this experience, excuse me. Now, what this means is you basically agree that you will complete and engage within our program, your program requirements, your degree requirements, with your partner, that's the school district, for the residency year. Once you do sign this document, the commitment, if you will, i.e. you, the graduate or the soon-to-be graduate, makes with WilmU and the district partner, is begun or becomes effective on the 14th when it's handed in, beginning in June. Now, you see the term there, or you see the words terminated. Now, don't get worried about that. Termination can come in a variety of forms, and it's not something that we typically do. In fact, I can tell you we have not terminated anyone at all. Okay? The only individual who self-left, or what we call a voluntary removal, wasn't until our second year of the residency. Okay, so through the process of where we selected you all, you've met those established requirements where we feel strongly about you, and we know that you're going to be successful. But obviously, this is a legal binding document, so the language has to be in there, though, because what happens if someone does need to be terminated? We have to have the language in obviously this document. So let's talk about then your stipend, eligibility, so forth. Okay, so you are eligible in participating in this particular program. Beyond the 50% reduction is the compensation package of right now $14,000. I believe it will go up to $15,000. It's an additional $1,000. I know it doesn't seem too much, but for all of you, each penny counts. Now, when you meet all the eligibility requirements and you, of course, maintain those eligibility requirements, so that's two things. One is going to be, if you recall, the praxis examination. That's an eligibility requirement. Got to have that. We can't maintain and go through the program unless that's done. In addition to that, maintenance of the requirements or eligibility is, of course, following through and engaging in those requirements that we step forth through the handbook. What we have in task stream, those activities and assignments that are part of the residency. What you would do normally from day to day to day. That's part of the commitment. That's part of keeping you eligible. Some language in eligibility. So, you fully participate in the residency Monday through Friday, all the activities, PLCs, evening events, those things that happen and occur during a school year. You are eligible for additional compensation if the district, again, agrees, depending on the district, if you serve as a substitute for the mentor teacher. That also includes service as a substitute for the mentor teacher when they are engaging in professional development with us, meaning we have a meeting and we call the mentor teacher to the meeting and you are the substitute that day. Depending on the district, you can be paid to be that substitute. Within eligibility, you comply with all our policies, procedures, guidelines. You maintain good standing, meaning that you maintain a 3.0 and everything else, and that goes in. We go into that a little bit further as well. Let's see. I'll move on a little bit here. Loss of eligibility is one thing. If you fail to comply with any of the eligibility requirements or leaves during the WILMU residence year, whether it be voluntary or involuntary, you'll no longer be able to receive these benefits, or i.e. the stipend. Now that means if we as a team, as a group, decide on the 14th, if you want to be dispersed payment monthly, every month you receive a check, so to speak, then what happens if by chance you decide I no longer want to be in the residency and it's November or December, then obviously you would receive payment in September, October, November, and then if you decided to leave, of course those payments would stop. Makes sense, right? Now, of course, if you were involuntarily removed, which means, let's say, for example, we removed you, or the mentor teacher no longer wanted you in his or her classroom, then of course the same applies. That's eligibility. The tax reporting or the tax liability is a one-liner, but it does make an impact. So let's take just a moment or two. It is obviously your responsibility to, i.e., understand how the compensation disbursement will affect who you are as a tax-paying citizen. Meaning, if you do receive a set amount of funds in the tax year, obviously you're going to have to claim it for that particular taxable year. So one of the conversations that we need to have on the 14th when we are together as a group is how you would like this to be dispersed. And as a team, we need to come up with one general approach. We can't do individualized, unfortunately. It's a little bit too much to do that in terms of the amount of individuals and the money that's involved. But we certainly can have a conversation as to how that might impact you individually. And this is why I bring it up, because we're going to talk about it more on the 14th. You need to have a conversation either with a significant other, family, your tax advisor, as to this disbursement of funds to you, which is taxable, and how it will impact your own tax picture. Does anybody have any questions so far about anything that I've shared so far with the contract?
Yes, I have. So what are our options for the disbursement of the stipend? Like, I guess
Yeah, that's
kind of just like a big lump sum that we were going to get, but now it's sounding like we have a little bit more options.
well, yeah, you were always going to receive between 13 and 15,000, right? We were always looking at that. The disbursement opportunities falls into probably three categories. The first will be monthly. That will be the first one. And so at the end of each month, on the 30th or the 31st of each month, you would receive a live check, and it would be mailed to you. The second option would be two equal payments at a designated time frame, meaning most likely early December or somewhere maybe around Thanksgiving, and then at the end of the residency, probably late May. Of course, those dates would be determined by the financial department here at the university. The last option would be one lump sum at the end of the residency. Now, I'm going to be I'll be very clear, very frank. I prefer not the latter. I would not say one lump sum. Okay, but that is, and the reason being there is not that, again, any of you, we are obviously thinking that are not going to make it, or any of you are going to withdraw or remove yourself, and then that nature. I'm thinking more so who you are as individuals, and the fact that, yes, the compensation package is not the only reason that you're doing it, obviously, but it is a reason why you are, because it provides you some help, some income. So those are the things that you need to think about in preparation for our 514 meeting. Does that help? Okay. So within College of Education and WilmU, that should say WilmU. I'll have to fix that. The following, obviously, remaining in good standing, GPA of 3.0, meeting and communicating to your mentor teacher, working within the program requirements, attending all meetings, making sure that you are obviously paying your tuition, whatever format that is, and of course, maintaining the schedule within their assigned school. So that's the primary commitment components to WilmU. Again, and then not to scare anybody, but it is what it is. It is something that, again, it's a legal document. We must have this in here in terms of termination. You may leave the residency program voluntarily at any time if you wish. However, once removed, or you have decided to remove yourself or removed by us, the mentor teacher or the district or school, you cannot be reinstated into the residency. Of course, if you were removed from either the residency by yourself, voluntarily or involuntarily, you would then follow suit into your traditional program, i.e., the traditional teacher preparation pathway per the College of Education. Does anybody have any questions about that? And again, this is not to scare you, okay? I want to say, I keep saying that. It is what it is. These are, anybody who's ever signed a mortgage before or anybody has signed a contract before, you know that it's very clear that this has to be in here. Such as the following has to be in there as well, which is the publicity component of this particular program. You will, when you sign the contract, are stating that WilmU districts, any designee of WilmU or the district may take photographs. We can create videos, case studies, reports, blogs, articles, advertising, communication of any kind, whether it be media, social media, Twitter, Facebook, those types of things, without any further permission or compensation beyond this contract. And that you agree, obviously, may disclose information about who you are as an individual resident or candidate to those national agencies such as National Center for Teacher Residencies and or AIR, or also public communications for the promotional purposes of the program. So essentially, to give you a picture or give you an example of what that might mean, currently in Red Clay has a Twitter feed, and all of our residents are on that Twitter feed, and they are updated along with a district profile and a district communicator. It's, if you will, like their little magazine that comes out monthly, and the district takes pictures of our residents. They are published out in Twitter and on Facebook and so forth. And we will have have a Facebook page for YLR. We also have and will have a Twitter account, and we will also have an area in which we will collect information and those types of communications media that would be open to the public. So so I'm asking, does anybody have any questions about that particular component? Okay, and then of course, signatures, which would be yours and mine with the date. So what this will mean is when this does go out to you via email, you'll have immediately access so you can review it. Then the live document will reach your household. Of course, that will be signed by me already. And then when you receive it, you want to review it again, then sign it, date it, and bring it to our May 14th meeting. Okay, going over a little bit more than I had wished. But I do want to keep it within an hour, but I am very happy to answer any questions that anyone has. So Natalie asks a great question, and it's about commencement and graduation. And this is how this works, because your peers who are in the traditional pathway deal with this as well, because it's an 80-day student teaching placement for the traditional. As an example, May 16th is graduation commencement in Georgetown. And then I believe that Sunday, May the 22nd, is commencement and graduation for Newcastle County. Now, none of those peers, none of those graduates are done. They're not done yet. None of them are. They're still in school and they're still finishing their 80 days. It's April 22nd, and between now and the 16th and the 22nd, many of them, if not almost all of them, will still have a set number of days. They may have 5, 10 days left over. That's okay. You will still graduate. You will still participate in commencement. You will still engage in all of that great stuff, which it is phenomenal, wonderful stuff to see you walk across the stage, because we all get to see you do it. You will participate, and it does not impact graduation at all. So let me make that very clear. So you'll get your diploma, all right? The only reason why it would make an impact, as if you were not completing your activities and assignments and what was required of you. But I'm going to tell you right now, not one year-long residency student in the past 4 years has ever done that. So it does not make an impact at all. So Natalie, it's a great question. I hope that helps. Are there any additional questions? What I'm willing to do is I will stay on, and for those who do not have questions, I thank you for joining me this evening. I look forward to seeing you all on the 14th. I, more importantly, am very excited to see this particular year move forward. We have a lot of very exciting things that are occurring within the residency. And I will be sending out a date in hopefully the next 2 weeks as to what we like to call a welcome celebration. And that will be all of you, all the mentor teachers, all the principals. We get some district representatives. More importantly, we get the Delaware Department of Education and a few other very important friends to come, and we all have dinner together, and it's a celebration. It's camaraderie and fellowship, and we start off the year-long residency the right way. So you'll see from me, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, like I said, a confirmation of a save the date. You want to put that on your calendar. Again, it'll be sometime in August prior to when these things begin, right? So that everyone can get together. Not about instruction, not about teaching, not about education, but we sit together in fellowship and we start off the right way as a team. Casey, where specifically is the next meeting? Very good, Casey. We're in Dover on May the 14th. We're in Dover as a team. The building most likely will be the A building, but I have to verify that because the summer calendar and the summer building use schedule hasn't come out yet. So in about a week, when our summer building use schedule comes out per the university, I'll know exactly which building and room, and I'll email everybody an update as to what building, what room. Okay. If there are no other further questions, then I thank you for participating this evening. You may log off. And those who'd like to stay on to ask questions, I'm more than happy to sit here and converse as much as you need so that you feel as comfortable as you need. Thank you so much for a good evening.
Thank you as well.
Thank you, Dr. Van Gelder. Sorry.
It's late. Good night.
Thank you.